Hello there, my authentic seekers, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hello, my name is Kloee Taylor, and on this channel, I believe we have one of the most coziest, vibey corners of the internet. So if you like the way that I read and this message sits right with you, be sure to hit that subscribe button and become a member of the Pumpkin Patch. We'd love to have you. Now, for today's reading, we're actually doing a collective reading and we are channeling the energy of Aphrodite. For those of you that didn't know, Aphrodite is what I consider to be my matron. I have worked with her since before I even knew what that was as a child. And she has been a spirit guide to me and somebody that there's always a place for Aphrodite on my altar. She's very special to me. Even in tarot card readings that I've had done by other readers, she always comes out when people don't even know her. When people don't even know that she and I work together, she comes out in almost every reading I've ever had done. We work very closely together. And today I wanted to really give Aphrodite the floor, especially because today is Valentine's Day. And I want this message to be the comfort that you need. It's not necessarily going to be a reading that is so focused on romance or what you would typically expect for Valentine's Day, because if you didn't know, in the actual mythology, Aphrodite was considered the whore archetype. She wanted to be sovereign unto herself, and I want to say she was forced to actually marry as punishment. And so I know people think Aphrodite, we think love and romance, but even though that might be true in one way, Aphrodite is actually the sovereign woman. And not that you need to identify as female to be here for this reading, but Aphrodite, I believe, is going to give us a very strong collective message of just what you need to hear on this day, that the energy around you might be that of love. It might be that of sorrow, depending on what you're going through. And so we're going to get into a collective message, and then I'm also going to be reading for you from Light is the New Black, as well as the book Ceremony, because I feel like both of those books have some messages for us today. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. Before I actually get started on shuffling and bringing in cards, I do just want to remind those of you that are unaware that I do have a podcast. It's called Divine Authenticity. There are new episodes every single Monday. This week was a 2-hour special that I had my husband come on and guest. You all got to ask us questions and we answered over the course of 2 hours. And it's a very special episode. You always ask me to bring him back on the podcast because you like his energy. So if you want to give that a listen, please do. It's everywhere that you listen to podcasts, Divine Authenticity, and I would love to have you as a listener. My goal for 2023 is actually to reach 1 million people. So if you're already listening and you want to share that podcast with somebody, it would definitely help me out. So let's go ahead and get into this collective reading. I'm going to go ahead and actually remove these because really that was just for the thumbnail. We're going to use these decks, of course, but we're doing it a little bit differently today. So we're going to start with this, I believe this is called the Magical Girl Tarot. And like I said, I know this is going to be very different from any other reading that I've ever done. I'm actually going to shuffle with you. But this deck, I love. It's Sailor Moon themed. It's by an independent artist. And it says, fight evil, win love. So I felt like it was just really appropriate for today. So Aphrodite, what is it that you want us to hear right now? Go ahead, and this is something that I would normally do off camera, but today I'm doing it with you. These cards are kind of hard to shuffle. I believe the newer edition of this deck, the newer edition of this deck is actually a lot smaller. It's been redone and it's supposed to be more user friendly, but this I think is the original print. All right, Aphrodite, come through. Let us know what you want us to know. So we have 4 of Swords reversed. Gosh, why do I feel like only on my channel we would get a message like that? I'm going to tell you about it in a second. I just want to deal out a few more cards. We have the 4 of Compacts. That's interesting. Upright. The Empress reversed. The Ace of Wands reversed. And the Sun reversed. Ooh, okay. This reading, if you feel like you have been going through it, this is your reading. This is for you. You're supposed to be here hearing this. I just need to say that right now because there's been a lot of unrest. The Four of Swords reversed always is an indication to me. And I say that, oh, of course we would get this on my channel because I feel like there are some of you that come to my channel that are very familiar with the Four of Swords because it is the card that tells you to rest. And this card is actually reversed. It's unrest. You're not resting. You're not actually putting time and pouring into yourself because here's the thing. If you're sitting and resting, but you're just feeling guilty for resting, that's not resting. That's feeling guilty. It's like another form of like hyperproductivity because you're trying to rest, but you're just sitting there anxious and feeling guilty about other things that you should be doing or you think you should be doing. So the Four of Swords tells me that there's been a lot of unrest. And the Four of Compacts coming out next to that is we feel like there's a lack of safety net. We feel like we're not actually safe to completely unwind and be in the present moment. We feel like we need to fear the future. Maybe you're judging yourself based off of the past of who you used to be. Maybe something happened in your life and you're so afraid that it's going to happen again because it was a really traumatizing thing. Now, please remember, I have to say this. I'm not a therapist, though I love to use tarot under the psychological lens because I think it can really help us understand ourselves. I am not a therapist. I am not a licensed therapist, even though I'm well versed in psychology. Please do not use my readings like therapy. For legal reasons, I always have to state that when it comes up. And I really do mean it. Like if you're using my readings like therapy, you're using them wrong. Like please reach out to somebody for mental health expertise if you require that. But the reason I bring that up is because I do feel like I am getting this like, you don't feel safe. And I feel like it could be financial safety. It could be like creative safety, standing up and being yourself. It is creative safety because the Empress is the ultimate creatrix, right? It doesn't matter how you identify this card. I say she because the Empress is usually like the archetype of a pregnant woman, but this lens applies to anybody. So the Empress being reversed here tells me that we're so afraid. You're afraid to put yourself out there. You're afraid to create something new. You're afraid to let passion lead your way forward. And I want you to know this. I don't know why I'm like getting a little choked up. Like I feel like some of you have really been sitting with some hard feelings. And I told you recently in a video that I put out, I think last week, that nothing makes me more sad as like somebody that I believe I'm like a way shower. I'm a trailblazer. I'm meant to like help people go forward. Nothing makes me more sad than when I see people not believe in their dreams and believe in themselves and believe in their gifts because it's devastating. Like the world needs what you have. And if you do not put yourself out there and you let fear be the controller, it's devastating. It's devastating to your purpose, your destiny. Your soul doesn't like it. Your soul is going to continue to make you feel unrested until you do something with this because you are meant to put it out there. And it's not going to get better until you do it. That is honestly where the unrest is coming from. And I'm sorry I'm getting choked up because like that feeling sucks. As an intuitive tarot card reader, I feel the feelings that come up in a reading, and this feels like devastation to me. This feels heavy. It hurts. And the Sun being reversed here too, it tells me that like you feel like you've just been journeying in darkness, and like the sun is, I don't want to say that it's like the sun is never going to come out again because it will, but it's like you have sat and let things germinate for too long. Like Think about creativity like a flower, okay? You put the seed in the ground, you cover it with dirt, it has to germinate before it can come out and touch the sun. And you have spent too much time in the womb. You have spent too much time germinating, and it's starting to devastate you because you're not hitting the go live button. You're not making the podcast, or maybe you've made it, but you haven't actually put it out. You're not hitting the public button on the YouTube video. You're not going out there and finding an agent to help you get your name out there if you're an actor or an actress. You're like, there's something, you're not putting yourself out in the public, and that is what is hurting. You're feeling uncomfortable because you're not pushing the go button. It's like you've done all of this inner work. You're trying, it's almost like you're trying to therapize your way through feeling like you're 1000% ready before you actually do the thing. And don't get me wrong, I think that's an excellent practice. I mean, athletes do it all the time, right? Athletes will rehearse and rehearse and rehearse mentally them winning, crossing the threshold as the winner. And we can see even from like scientific studies that this works because we have mentally rehearsed it over and over and over. And this can be a really beautiful practice. But if you're just underground trying to perfect over and over and over and over and over, you need to put yourself out there. It's the thing that is causing the unrest. You're not able to rest because you know deep down that you need to do something about this. And it's going to continue to not let you rest until you've done it. Now, those of you that you're like, Kloee, I'm not in a creative pursuit. I don't know what you're talking about. I feel that this could also be the fear of a new chapter in your life, because the Empress, like I said, typically it is the mother archetype. It's the pregnant woman. And you cannot be the maiden forever. Again, please remember that it doesn't matter how you identify. You can't be the maiden forever. Eventually you have to step into that mother archetype role, or the father archetype, or whatever the next archetype is. And when I see an Empress reversed, it's like, we're stuck. We're stuck laboring. We're stuck being pregnant, okay? Not actually physically pregnant, but pregnant with ideas, pregnant with the next version of ourselves that is waiting to be born. And you've been at this critical point for a very long time. It's heavy. It's a burden. It feels now like you're like, dude, can you just get out? Like, I'm tired of carrying you around. And it's like your soul is tired of this. It's tired of holding you. And not to say that you're never going to be abandoned. You're never going to be like forced out. I mean, sometimes I do think the universe has a funny way of doing that. And sometimes you will be forced out. But like, know that it's not you against you. Like, that will never happen. You'll just sit in this uncomfortable phase until you change something, is what I'm trying to say. And then with the Ace of Wands reversed, this also tells me that like, you're just stuck in this place of incompleteness. Not that you're not whole and complete, because you are, but you're stuck in this state of incompleteness, of you feel like something is always wrong. There is always another thing to fix. Gosh, I don't know if you're somebody that's like really into psychology or self-help, but sometimes there comes a point where the self-help stops helping. And I have been through this myself, so I get it. It's like you have all these fantastical ideas, all of these great, like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this and this and this. But it's like you haven't let yourself catch up. You're constantly judging yourself for not being this like amazing content creator or this new version of yourself, or you can't seem to get the routines right. You can't seem to get it perfect. And the thing is, you're not meant to strive for perfection. Perfection is an illusion. It is an illusion of control. And if you're constantly waiting for it to be perfect, or for it not to be risky, or for it to feel safe, you will literally wait forever. Everything in life is risky. Having children is risky. Buying a house is risky. Getting a new job is risky. Moving to a new country is risky. Moving house is risky. Getting rid of old friendships is risky. Making new friendships with a stranger is risky. Going to group events is risky. Going outside your fucking front door is risky. Everything in life is risky. And the more that you try to pad yourself with protection and staying safe, you miss out on so much in life. And I feel like you are feeling this massive unrest because you're not putting yourself out there. Whether it is actually putting yourself out there in a creative way, putting yourself out there when it comes to like, maybe you just need to get involved with your community. I feel like it's, especially if you have really been inside since like 2020, you are experiencing like a quarter of life. And that's not to say that you can't be introverted, that you can't love your time alone, but it's time to get invested in more. It's time to put yourself out there. I feel like you might have like a fear of people as well. Spirit is saying, or Aphrodite is saying, like there is this fear of other. There is this fear of non-acceptance that maybe has followed you your whole life. And there's always going to be people that don't like you. Always. You will never, ever, ever be the right person for every single person that crosses your life, ever. There's always going to be people that don't like you. And it's not your job to micromanage how they feel about you. It's not your job to be the most perfect person that they need you to be. It's your job to like who you are. My favorite saying, or one of my favorite sayings, is learn when respect stops being served at the table, and don't be afraid to eat alone. In the sense that even if everybody turns their back on you, nobody likes you, you need to remind yourself that it has nothing to do with you. Now, I'm not saying you can't take in like self-criticism and criticism of others and actually make changes. There's obviously a balance to this. But what I am trying to say is that I feel like you like you, but you're worried that others don't like you and they're not going to like what you make. And instead, it's so much better to come at this from a perspective of just being the person you want to be, creating the thing that you want to create, and putting it out there anyway, regardless of what kind of reaction you receive. And you're not going to get good at it until you do it. Okay, let's get some more cards out here. So I'm trying to decide what. I think we're going to use this deck next, which is the, what is this one called? What are you called? This is the Threads of Fate Lumen Oracle. I don't even think you can get this edition anymore. They've replaced the editions. They have one like this. It's just different now. But all of their decks are fantastic. I've used multiple of them. This is not I feel like every deck I've talked about, and this is not a sponsored video. I genuinely love the decks that I have. And so I always want to give those independent creators a shout out, because Threads of Fate is also another independent creator. Okay. Play. Compassion. Okay, so, why are these so hard to see? I don't have my lights on today because I'm trying to have a chill day, but play and compassion, if you can see those. Like, we're actually using natural light from the window today. That's why it's kind of dark cast this way, but I hope that's okay for y'all. We're trying, like I said, I'm trying to just have a chill reading, but if you're not having fun, you're missing the point, is what I'm hearing. If you're not having fun, you're missing the point. This isn't supposed to be stressful, whatever. Like if you're trying to like rebirth into a new self, right? It's not supposed to be hard. It's not. You're not supposed to do 80 strong and like have to be the perfect person for this many days. If you're trying to birth a new business or a new creation, I'm not saying you don't have to lay some hard work down, but you've done the hard part. Like if you're coming across this reading, you've already done it. You've done the hard part. Now it's time to actually play. It's time to actually put yourself out there and have fun, and or get involved in your community and have fun, meet other people. I do feel like a lot of your issues are stemming from solitary practice. You need to get involved with other people. The fact that you've been alone for so long is actually what's really hindering you. And whether you're putting yourself out there online, this is going to drive community in and bring more people in. Or if it's like a face-to-face thing and you need to like get out and volunteer or get involved in your community more, there are people with perspectives that you need in your life. And you've done enough germinating. Like I said, you need to let yourself like grow in a garden with others. And the reason I say that is because dolphins, they do like to travel together. They do like to play together. This is not a solitary card. This is togetherness. Especially during Saturn and Aquarius, one of your greatest lessons at this time collectively, which we're almost done with, it ends in March, and then we'll be into Pisces, where we're all going to be having a crisis of faith. We'll talk about that as the transit approaches on my channel. But the lesson is community. It is humanitarianism. It is, who are you in a group setting? And if you haven't learned that or integrated that, you're probably really struggling with this transit, whether you have Saturn in Aquarius or not. If you do, it's going to be harder. But even if you don't, everybody has had to learn relationship and like friendship lessons over the last 3 years and who we are in a community. And so if you haven't found community, it feels lonely as hell. So community and also having self-compassion and compassion for others is coming through very strong. Now I want to pull from the Rose Oracle. This is like, if you want to tap into your divine feminine, again, no matter how you identify, this is one of those decks that I feel like can help you do that. Tap into your feminine flow, not leading so much from the masculine, which nothing wrong with that. If you want to lead from the masculine, do you. But this is a very feminine deck. One of my personal favorites. I've had great experiences with it. This is the Rose Oracle by Rebecca Campbell. The child within, inner mother, innocence, gentleness, tenderness. Ooh. What is that about, though? The child within. I feel like a lot of these like wounds that keep coming up for you, they're ingrained from childhood. You maybe feel othered or different, or there is something about like, it might even have something to do with your mother, with the inner mother coming out, like something that was given to you from your mother that you need to actually transcend. I'm going to pull a couple more just to see if we can get a little more. The sun. Oh, that's funny. You got the sun twice. Joy, enjoyment, life force, success, vitality, and play. There it is again. Play. And rapture. Sensuality, love, devotion, romance, ecstasy, and pleasure. I'm telling you, if you're not having fun, that's what's missing. You need to be letting yourself enjoy life more, have more fun, have more pleasurable experiences. It doesn't, like, I want to reiterate, as coming from a Taurus, okay? You do not have to spend money to feel luxurious. You don't. Being luxurious is an energy. It's not a price tag. And I know, being a bad bitch Taurus, I love to spend money in luxury. That's easy for me. It comes naturally to me. I love luxury. But it's an energy. You can turn anything into something luxurious. You can decide to do an activity by candlelight. That is luxurious. You can decide to cook yourself a meal, but like plate it in a way that is beautiful. That is luxurious, right? You can take a bath and put some essential oils in there. That is luxurious. Or if you don't have essential oils, even just putting like a little bit of body wash or shampoo in there to make some bubbles. Like, there are ways to experience luxurious pleasure without breaking the bank. I feel like some people needed to hear that. Now, if you have some money to break the bank, break the piggy bank a little bit, Spirit is saying this is an appropriate time for you to do that. With the sun coming out as well, though, it's interesting to me that you would get the sun reversed and then you would have the sun come out again. This is what's missing. It's people. It's community. You've spent too much time by yourself, and I feel like you know. I think this is just confirming to you. You already know. And maybe you needed somebody else to say it to you, because sometimes that is how we best hear things, is when we don't just hear our own inner voice saying it. There is a component that's missing, and it's togetherness. It's having energy around you, having different opinions, different viewpoints, being more with the collective. And you're going to find that when you play more, and like, have you ever sat with another person and completely forgotten about how you looked, or if you were breathing too hard, or what your teeth looked like, or your makeup was? Or I feel like growing up, I had a lot of social anxiety. I was always very aware of my own presence. And it wasn't until like later adulthood, like probably closer till now, I still deal with social anxiety periodically, but it's not something that is a constant in my head. I'm able to silence the voices that when I leave somebody's company, I'm not questioning my every move anymore. And it does take practice to get out of your head in that way and not let your brain go there, because you can stop it from happening. Now, I'm not saying that it's just willpower. Like, it also takes a lot of mental understanding, maybe working through it with someone else that you trust. But I do feel like the reason I'm bringing that up is I feel like when it comes to social things, being in the company of others might be something that doesn't come naturally to you. And I think ultimately it's because you are afraid of how you're being perceived. You judge yourself so harshly that you're afraid of what other people will think of you. Like, you're too weird, you're too much, you think or feel too deeply. And the thing is, the right people will never make you feel like that. And that really is the truth. There are people out there that are waiting for you, that are looking for you the way that you are looking for them. And when you find it, you're going to be like, gosh, why didn't I put myself out there sooner? And I feel like when it comes to this, like getting into that playful state in somebody else's company, it's something you're not used to. Maybe even as a kid that was really silenced in you. And so you have feared other so early on. And this is actually a lesson that you're meant to learn right now, and you're stagnating yourself. And it's actually affecting your ability to put yourself out there because you fear others so much. But there are people, you haven't even met every person that will love you yet. Did you know that? Every person in your lifetime that's going to love you, you haven't even met every person yet. Isn't that crazy to consider? I always feel like that phrase really, I'm like, dang, I never thought about it that way. All right. So this Valentine, actually, we'll get into the self-care cards in a second. I want to pull just a couple of soul whispers for you, something that your soul needs to tell you, something that maybe Aphrodite wants to tell you specifically. Actually, let's go with Aphrodite. Aphrodite, what do you want to tell? I know you've told us a lot today, but what do you want to tell the collective today? Let's see. Many things had to align for you to be here. The fact that you are on this earth right now is an utter miracle. Look at that. This is the Soul Whispers Oracle from Tarot Stack by Dreamy Moon. It's beautiful. Of course, I'll be linking every deck down below. It's gorgeous. All right, one more. Aphrodite. What else? You are an extension of the universe itself. Stardust runs through your veins and galaxies swirl in your soul. See, I feel like these cards are even a little bit deep, and like somebody else made these. Your people exist. Stop pretending that they don't. They do. You're not too much. And the right people will never make you feel that way. And now I'm just going to pull you some self-care cards for the rest of your day today, if you're watching this on Valentine's Day, or the days to follow up. And then we're going to get into the book divination before we close out. All right, we have priorities with a calendar. It says, the quality of your life is determined by how you spend your time. Make sure your schedule reflects the life you want. Oh, this is such a good card. I love this. So let me read that again. The quality of your life is determined by how you spend your time. Make sure your schedule reflects the life you want. So if you want to be somebody that only works X amount of hours a week, make sure you're clocking those hours. Obviously, if you're like self-employed, if you're somebody that is employed, maybe only put that much time into like a side thing. Or this is also like, if you want to be that lucky girl, what does that lucky girl, lucky guy, lucky person look like, right? Do you work out every day? Do you drink green juice every morning? What are your priorities as that person, as you're rebuilding yourself, birthing yourself into the new? What do your friendships look like? And most importantly, what does it look like when you have a bad day? This is something I don't hear anybody ever talk about. And I think it's so important when we are trying to design our life. Who are you going to be on a bad day? Because most people, when they think about their best life, they only think about manifesting themselves on a beach sipping out of a coconut. And that's great. You can totally manifest that, but you're still going to have bad days. You're still going to have days where you feel mentally off. You're still going to have days where you feel afraid, days where you feel anxious. That's normal. It's part of the human experience. We have an uncanny and amazing ability as humans to be the observer of our world. And in such, sometimes observing is torture, and sometimes it's the most beautiful thing we've ever seen. Now, when it comes to prioritizing the life you want, how are you going to behave in the future on a day where you don't feel your best? What are you going to do to get back in alignment with your priorities? The things that are non-negotiables, the things that matter to you. Because it's easy to throw up your hands and say, nope, I'm going to spend today doing tender things, doing self-care things, laying in bed. And don't get me wrong, sometimes that is exactly what needs to happen. But if this is like 6 out of 7 days of the week, it's time to ask yourself, what can you do to get back to where you're trying to go? Because I feel like you're caught in a loop of frustrating yourself. And to get out of that loop, you have to be ready to have a plan. When that day comes that you're not feeling yourself, what can you do to get yourself back there? What little tasks are going to help you? How can you get refocused? How can you get those priorities back? And I actually have an episode of my podcast where I went over this extensively and talked to you about like mentally rehearsing. When you have a bad day, don't get me wrong, you have to assess at the top of that day. Is this a day where I need to stay in bed and take care of myself? Or is this a day where, I think I could still get to the things I want to do. These priorities are important to me. Here are a few minor tasks that I can get to that I know I'm going to feel better if I do them. So getting your priorities straight is actually like living softly but disciplined is honestly, it's my theme for 2023, but living a soft but disciplined life is that balance between the masculine and feminine. And if we get too far in the extreme of either, something feels off. If we're relaxing too often, we're never pushing ourselves forward. We're never doing anything. This can be overwhelming because we lose our motivation to want to do anything. And if we're constantly doing everything, always pushing, never resting, this can lead us to a fear-based mentality where we feel like we always have to be doing that or everything's going to fall apart. So getting straight on your priorities and what matters to you and asking yourself what you're going to do to get back in alignment when you have a day that feels off. Now, we also have for you security with Bank of Self-Care. There's like little checks. It says, The security comes from having a reserve of time, space, energy, personal power, and love. Make deposits in all of these accounts and you'll be a wealthy person indeed. So what area of your life is struggling? How can you make a deposit there, whether it's financial or not? And then we have love. Oh, so perfect on Valentine's Day. Love people, love them with all your heart. Just be sure to love yourself first. So your reading was very much about loving other people versus and yourself in that. I love it. Oh, look at this. I'm going to pull one more because it was the one on top. It said authenticity. Live life for you, not the audience in your head. Very, very cool. I'm going to put that one up because authenticity, that's what we stand for on this channel. So we're going to go ahead and get into the books now. And we're going to start with Ceremony, which this is Ceremony by Brianna Wiest. It's one of my all-time favorite books. It's a very easy read. They're just little short snippets. What message does the collective need to hear today? Reviewing the details one more time will not change the outcome. If there was an answer, you would have found it. If there was more to learn, you would have learned it. Not all stories end in a way that we understand, but that doesn't mean they aren't finished. Some things happen in random timing and without a clear reason, and for a purpose that remains unknown. If you need to know, you already would. Keep walking. And then we are going to read from Light is the New Black by Rebecca Campbell. This is my book for all my creatives. If you are a creative entrepreneur and this reading really resonated with you and you haven't picked up this book, I would highly encourage that you do. I will link it down below for you, both of the books. This book was the book that changed it all for me. This was the book that opened my mind. It made me push myself in new ways. It made me have the confidence to put myself out there. It helped me to go beyond fear. And dang, I need to tell my best friend about this book. She was just asking me about putting yourself out there when you're afraid. And I feel like this book was a book that really gave me the confidence. And I do feel like books hit different for everyone, but this is a really good one for creatives. So, okay. Ooh, I like this. We're going to read both of these. She left the old story behind her and stepped into a new one. Let me start over. She left the old story behind her and stepped into a new once upon a time. Beautiful. I'm going to fold this. Please don't everybody who loves books come for me. It's how I read my books. Don't let it define you. Don't let someone's unconscious acts define you. Chances are the healing journey spurred on by their actions will result in you being even more whole than before it happened in the first place. If it hurts like hell, take solace in knowing that any kind of cracking open is always a blessing in the end. Sometimes it just takes time. If only you could see things from the view that we do. We are all each other's mirrors, reflecting back the parts that are not whole. And annoying as it may sound, the people who press your buttons the most are actually the ones who help you grow the most. This is so true. I'm just going to pause right there. If you listen, I'm sorry I keep talking about my podcast. It's because the podcast is where all the context of everything I do online is. The podcast is where you get all the little holes filled in from Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, the Patreon. The podcast is the context. And this really is true. Even in my own experience, many of you have followed my journey with my own mother for about a decade. We were not close, and we were originally very, very, very close in childhood. And I realized that she was honestly pretty narcissistic and highly abusive. And I opened my eyes to how abusive my upbringing actually was. When you're in it as a child, you can't really see it. But once my eyes were open, I couldn't unsee it. And I went through so much healing through my matriarchal line. And only within the last 2 months did it finally come to a close. And I have nothing but forgiveness. And I'm grateful that I had the relationship with my mother that I had, back then because it taught me so much about myself. It taught me how to be my authentic self. It taught me how to put myself out there. It taught me how to mother myself and love myself in new ways that I never would have otherwise. And it really is the truth. The people that press your buttons the most are the ones who actually really, really are sent to help you grow. And I have nothing but love and respect for my mother, even after all that. So it really is the truth. They are a blessing or a curse. They can bring the things that make you expand or contract. The choice is yours. Soulmates are the people who spur on your growth like no other. Souls who agree prior to this life to play a vital role in our expansion. When meeting a soulmate, you may experience a sense of remembering or familiarity. Soulmate relationships are not necessarily all sunshine and roses. In fact, more often than not, they can be extremely difficult, as sometimes in order for us to grow, we need to experience pain. Some are here for a moment, some for a chapter, and some forever. Take the lesson and let go of the rest. Work your light. So these are just like some extra little things that you can do to expand on this. Work your light. What are your most difficult relationships? Are you being called to let go of a relationship or hold on to it? What have they taught you, or are they teaching you? And that is that. So I love that passage. I feel like that even resonates with me. Maybe it resonates with you. I hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day. Thank you for coming and listening to this message. I hope that it healed you. I hope that you know that you're loved. I hope that you know that you're appreciated. If nobody's told you yet this year, I mean this with my whole heart, because I really love humanity. I really have such a deep love for humans, like period. And I just want you to know that if nobody has told you today or this year, that I love you. I love you, not because you're passing by my channel, not because you sat and watched this for however many minutes, but because you are you, because you are unique, because you are a unique expression. And I love you. Even though I don't know you, I love you. And please, please, please do not forget, when you stand on your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. And I will talk to you in the next reading. If you would like to support me, please make sure to check out the podcast. Links are down below. Like I said earlier, I am trying to get to 1 million listens this year. I don't know how close we are to that, but I feel like it's doable. So even if you're already a longtime listener, be sure to share it with people that you think would be interested. That would really help me out. You can also join the Patreon, where we have exclusive content. There's weekly energy updates. There's special pick a cards, things that I don't share anywhere else online. Like I recently put a vlog out that will not be coming to YouTube ever. Like all my lifestyle content goes to Patreon now. I recently recorded a drunk episode of me dragging all the zodiac signs. It's not out yet, but it will be out within the next few days, most likely. I haven't decided if it's coming to YouTube. It might only be on Patreon. I have to see it first to see how it came out, because I was drunk when I recorded it. But it's me just dragging everybody's sun, moon, and rising. So if you want to see that early, no matter what, check out the Patreon. And if you would like to support the work that I do in a way that really does give back to me, no expectations here ever, but if you have a little extra, it definitely does help. I have my Cashapp, Venmo, and PayPal listed down below. I always pour everything back into the channel unless you leave me a note and tell me to do something else with it. It always goes back into cards, crystals, candles, incense, maybe even like a workshop here or there that helps me to expand my energy to teach you new things. And thank you so much. Why am I crying? Gosh, I really do love this community. Maybe it's because it's Valentine's Day and I'm just feeling it. I really do have such a deep love for this community and all that it has allowed me to do in this lifetime. And I'm just so unbelievably grateful that this is where I get to be and who I get to be and how I get to show up in the world. So I wouldn't be able to do any of this without you, whether you're on the Patreon or on the YouTube. I just want you to know how much I appreciate you. So thank you. And I'll talk to you in the next one.